Back in 2014, Hideo Kojima revealed with a playable teaser for Silent Hills that the Walking Dead star Norman Reedus would be starring in his game as the primary protagonist. And though that game was sadly cancelled, Kojima and Reedus' partnership would live on to fight another day. After an ugly divorce with Konami, followed by a period of radio silence, Hideo Kojima returned to the big stage at E3 2016, this time in an independent capacity with support from Sony, and announced Death Stranding, his new upcoming IP. With the game's premiere trailer itself, he also confirmed that once again he tapped Norman Reedus to play the game's protagonist. In Death Stranding, Reedus plays Sam Porter Bridges, and given that he's the main protagonist of the game, it makes sense that he's the character we've seen the most of in all of the trailers over the last 3.5 years. Like any Kojima game, Death Stranding has a huge cast of characters, with weird names and weird backstories. But as the protagonist, it's going to be Sam's job to pull players into the story more than any other character. We're now very, very close to Death Stranding's launch, and as the fateful day approaches, one by one, we'll be taking a look at some of the most interesting and enigmatic characters that have been confirmed for the game so far. We'll talk about everything we know about them so far, and depending on the things that the game's trailers have revealed or hinted at about them, we might do a little bit of theorizing as well. And of course, we'll be starting with the main man, Sam himself. Let's start with what we know for sure. Sam works for an organization called Bridges, and their goal, it seems, is to reconnect all of the cities and settlements of America to the UCA's chiral network, so that they can band together to survive against the onslaught of the BTs and maybe even fight back. That seems a bit tricky, but either way, Sam's role within this organization is to make deliveries. So what sort of deliveries? Well, he delivers all sorts of cargo that survivors scattered throughout the country might need, while curiously enough, he's also been seen carrying bodies. What those bodies are, why they're being delivered, and why they even need to be delivered are a few of the many mysteries still surrounding Death Stranding. So to have those questions answered, we're probably just going to have to play the game. Getting back to Sam, he doesn't seem too keen or optimistic about Bridges' ultimate goal. Thanks to the recent briefing trailer, we also know that when Sam is asked by Bridges leader Amelie and Die Hardman to finish what Amelie started by reconnecting the cities of America to UCA's chiral network, he turns them down. Of course, we also know that he will eventually go on to accept their request, but across several trailers, we've seen multiple examples of Sam's pessimistic outlook. He figures that reconnecting to UCA is a futile exercise, and that even if they do manage to do so, they won't be able to do anything against BTs, who are the real threat to the world and all of the people in it. That said, what is particularly interesting is the fact that it's Sam that Amelie and Die Hardman immediately turn to in their time of need. We've seen Sam mention at times before that he just makes deliveries, which would imply that he doesn't hold a very high rank within Bridges, even though he does have history with Amelie and her mother Bridget, who's also the president of the United States. While it's possible that they simply turn to him because of that history and because they think he's loyal and capable, something Death Stranding's trailers have alluded to a few times is Sam being somehow resistant to all of the supernatural threats the world is facing, at least to some extent. Take the timefall, for instance. It fast-forwards whatever it touches, and in the trailer shown at the 2017 Game Awards, we saw a man rapidly aging when exposed to it. Sam, however, doesn't seem to be affected by timefall. At the very least, the effect on him seems to be largely muted. And connection to the timefall are BTs, which is something else Sam seems to have special abilities with. Like Fragile, played by Léa Seydoux, Sam has something called dooms, and even though he has what he called the extinction factor, Fragile has still, as he says, got him beat there, which means Fragile can actually see BTs, while Sam can only sense them. Even so, Sam seems special in this regard, and the fact that he can sense BTs would imply that he has some sort of a connection to the other side. After all, the only reason BBs can sense BTs is because they're connected to the womb mothers on the other side. Does Sam share a similar connection with the other side as well? It certainly seems that way, though what exactly dooms, the extinction factor, or even BTs in the other side are some of the many things about Death Stranding we still don't know much about. Going back to Sam's relationship with Amelie and Die Hardman, that's something that's going to be interesting to see in the final game. The aforementioned briefing trailer implied that Sam had worked with Amelie and Die Hardman in the past, probably in his capacity as a Bridges member, and that whatever it was, it ended badly. Somehow, Sam holds the two of them responsible. If not, at the very least, because of the incident, he's unwilling to work with them or Bridges again. One interesting theory is that the scene we saw at the Game Awards 2017 is what this is referring to. In that scene, Sam is seen with two characters that haven't been seen anywhere else. What's also interesting is that Sam doesn't have a BB with him in that scene. One of the other two characters does, which implies that Sam probably hasn't come into the role that requires him to carry a BB just yet. If this is indeed a scene that takes place near the beginning of the game, watching his companions die, getting caught by BTs, and being caught in the middle of a void out would explain why he doesn't want anything to do with Bridges anymore. Because of this incident, he probably thinks BTs are invincible, and no matter how many cities are reconnected to the UCA, there's no fighting back against the BTs. All of this is just theorizing, of course, but it does seem to fit. Oh, and speaking of BBs, that's something else that's probably going to be a major part of Sam's personal arc in Death Stranding. The character spotlight trailer focusing on Deadman heavily implies that Sam is getting attached to his BB and doesn't want to see it die or get harmed, which Deadman tells him is inevitable. The game is probably setting up an arc for Sam where he comes to view BBs as more than just tools, which is how Bridges views them, and becomes a lot more empathetic towards them. The game's release date trailer implied that Cliff, played by Mads Mikkelsen, shares a similar bond with his own BB. Perhaps that will be a factor in the dynamic between Sam and Cliff. Well, that remains to be seen, but Cliff's character is also extremely intriguing. Perhaps the most interesting of the lot, but we will save him for his own character spotlight feature. There's some things that we do know about Sam, as we've discussed, but there's also so much we just don't know. One thing is for sure, Hideo Kojima has a proven track record of writing excellent, compelling protagonists, and Sam looks set to be yet another one of those. Combined with what we're hoping is going to be a memorable performance by Norman Reedus, he might just leave a long-lasting impression on us. As the protagonist of what's clearly a huge and ambitious game, we're hoping that's the least he will do. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.